Do not be afraid to enter into a debate with anyone over the subject of the tithe, because in reality it is not a debate. It is the irrefutable truth of the Bible being placed up against the deception that has been taught for generations. Once you put the truth to them about the main scriptures that are used to deceive the people, you've won the debate. To make it easy for everyone to take the truth about the tithe to their friends, families, and others, I'm going to show you how to unequivocally prove the truth about the tithe with 10 verses of scripture, some of which they attempt to use, as these verses will drive home your winning point as you prove this truth to them. Through the utilization of these scriptures, they will have no strength against you after you completely take the wind out of their sails with your irrefutable points, which will win the debate for you. Some people may tell you they don't care if you're telling them the truth because they're going to keep on tithing anyway. If they say this to you, that's fine. And don't let it bother you, because it is off of you now and it is on them because they have heard the truth. So it is up to them to take the truth that they've heard and do with it whatever they decide to do with it. Although we hope and pray that they do the right thing with it. But either way, don't worry about it. I've had people say this to me before. End your debate by reinforcing 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. As it states, a person is not to give out of having constraints placed on them to give. Hence the word necessity in this verse, which in the Greek is the word enanke, which is defined as constraint. I'll deal with this verse below, as this is one of the verses that you will use to win the debate. Beginning of debate. The first verse to begin the debate with is Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, which states, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." The word meat in Malachi chapter 3, verse 10 is the word tereth in the Hebrew, which is defined as food. And the Israelites are told to bring all the tithes of the produce of the land and the livestock into the storehouse, so that there will be food in God's house. And the food in God's house was to feed the Levites, strangers to the land, the fatherless, and widows. The tithe was not money, the tithe was food. The Israelites were operating under the law given to them by God through Moses. As the tithe was a food program to feed the Levites, strangers to the land, the fatherless, and widows, as stated in Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 28 and 29, which reads, "At the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he hath no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest." Once you prove the truth about Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, go to the next verse they attempt to use, as they attempt to bring Jesus Christ into the picture by stating that Jesus Christ endorses tithing in Matthew chapter 23, verse 23. Take them to Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, where Jesus Christ states these words, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone." Next, take them to Luke chapter 11, verse 42, which runs right alongside Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, as it is saying the same thing. In Luke chapter 11, verse 42, Jesus Christ states these words, "But woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and pass over judgment and the love of God. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone." At this time, they will think they have something to use against you, as they will say that Jesus Christ endorses tithing. Here's how you deal with that. For Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, and Luke chapter 11, verse 42, ask them these questions. In Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, what is mint, anise, and cumin? In Luke chapter 11, verse 42, what is mint, rue, and all manner of herbs? Follow up your question to them with this. In Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, mint, anise, and cumin is produce of the land. In Luke chapter 11, verse 42, mint, rue, and all manner of herbs are produce of the land. The scribes and Pharisees operated under the commands of God that were given to the Israelites by God, which required them to tithe the produce of the land and the livestock. And just as in Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, the Israelites are told to bring all the tithes of the produce of the land and the livestock into the storehouse, so there will be food in God's house. And the food in God's house was to feed the Levites, strangers to the land, the fatherless, and widows. The tithe was not money, the tithe was food. They were doing nothing other than following the commands given by God in regards to food.